Hello everyone on today's webinar, Newired 23.2, New and Noteworthy. It's a regular roundtable webinar where we expose the new and noteworthy features that we are launching pretty frequently. We have 4 releases a year. So if you go to newired.com/blog, you will find that we articulate all the benefits of the new features pretty regularly. We have a release every quarter. This is pretty rapid development cycle. We follow the agile methodology. So once the features are developed, we are ready to launch them. We just don't wait, and we launch them throughout the year. This release also contains some of the, let's say, regular fixes, security updates to the use libraries. So even if you are not thrilled about the features that I'll be speaking about today, we motivate you to consider to update to this new version. As usual, I'm promoting the Newired blog post, so I'm using the blog as a key outline for my presentation today. This also means that you can all go to our blog and check, let's see, the details. The webinar will be recorded, so you will be receiving the recording tomorrow or on Monday, and you can share it with your colleagues. So let's just jump into the Newired 23.2 that was officially launched a few weeks back, early July this year. And the first great feature that we want to speak about are the page views analytics. What is it about? So let's go to our Newired portal. You know that the Newired portal is an interface where you can manage the publishing process, so you can manage all the different versions of the content that is live and visible for the end users. So for today presentation, we are mostly using the CRM demo, but I may switch to some other tools as well. On the CRM demo, I mean, we are using the personal analytics. So this means that when I check, I'm logged here as a Carl Xavier here. I can change some of my settings, but what is really important is that we then collect the information about what the user is doing in our analytical module. So in the portal, there is a section called analytics. As you know from the previous presentations, these analytics can be completely turned off. So the Newired may not collect any information about the end user behavior. Or you can, in the settings, completely anonymize the data and disable the so-called personal analytics. So, I mean, we make it possible to collect no data, to collect anonymized data, or to really collect data about each and every particular user. So for many years, we have been collecting some analytics, mostly related to the use of Newired artifacts, such as journeys or playbooks. What does it really mean? That if I go to the playbooks area, we can check, let's say, what playbooks exists. Let me just go here for all. Hopefully we will have here. So I can go to the getting started playbook. So what is the playbook? If I go to the live portal, you see that the playbook is a playlist of specific journeys. And you want to track, let's say, who performed which journey, what is the completion rate. You can even check which user has completed the journey and when. You can manage the same type of analytics for any particular journey for years. But what we decided to, let's say, enhance and introduce a completely new capability in a latest version is that we have here the section called page views. What are the page views? So the page views enable you not just to track the information about how the Newired content is being used. What I mean, in the past, we have been only collecting the information about what the people were doing with our overlay. So they started a journey and they completed a journey. Okay, so whenever I actually perform a particular activity, let's perform some. In that case, the system will track under the activity feed that the person has completed a specific journey. If I run here last week, it takes a minute to collect it, but you see here that Carl Xavier has completed the journey today at 3:07. So that has been me completing this particular journey. So these are all the activities related to the Newired assets. But we have customers asking questions, can you also measure how the target application has been used? So how many people, for example, go under the opportunities area? So how many of them actually search for or manage the opportunities? How many of them actually go and manage the some of the cases or other areas? Okay, so now the point is that the customers wants to manage some data related to the use of the target application, and the digital adoption platform may help with such use case as well. And that's what we track today under the page views umbrella. And in the current version, we see that, let's say, I can again filter the time, I can filter the segments. I will speak about that later. And here I see all the different pages that the people were viewing. And actually, if I search here for opportunities, I'll be able to see how many of the users, which were actually 2 over the last week, 11 page views, have been working with the opportunities tab over, let's say, this target application. Of course, I mean, if the URL is very specific, so they want to see a detailed view of one particular, let's say, activity, I can track the page views for a single URL as well. I see that there was one user opening it for total page views. And if I have the personal tracking on, I will be also able to see who exactly visited this page. So from this perspective, what we see here is that we get some aggregated overview about all the people that were, let's say, opening any page with opportunities in the URL. I can, of course, filter it by different segments. The segments has been a feature that we have implemented last release. I can speak about it later. So we see that I can actually measure how many of the people have been here with the Italian browser, how many with the English browser. These are just some, let's say, simple segments that we have implemented on our demo site. So if you go to the Newired editor, if you go to the segment editor, we have seen that we have defined some of the segments which can be defined based on any criteria. In this case, we have said we want to have as an English browser all the users that have the, let's say, language of the browser set to English, and Italian is an English language set to Italian. So you can really, let's say, define your own segments and make sure that the data are being processed or filtered by segments. One note from the point of view of the data security and data privacy. The great thing about the segmentation is that all those rules that are actually defining the segment are running locally on a client desktop. So we are just sending to the server the information about the segment name, but the actual evaluation runs 100% on the client. So we don't push to the server any information about the user role, about the user geography, about anything. So we can just define the segment, and all the informations are being evaluated on the client, and to the server we just push the name of the segment, which makes the data security much higher and more reliable as well. So you can actually now, with the new version, manage the different analytics about the Newired assets, have the information about every single, let's say, operation that has been performed in the activity feed, and last but not least, also to measure which pages are used most on a given application. We call it page views. it's a roundtable webinar for existing customers. I can also speak about some of the future enhancements in our pipeline. Of course, for now, you need to search everything manually. What we are working on and what we will release later is that you would be able to define key searches or the key criteria, and instead of searching it always again, you would be able to have the favorite searches. For the future, we also consider to define some key KPIs and let's say thresholds. So notify the user if some specific page has been visited more than expected, or other way around, if some specific page was not visited enough in a given time frame or in a given given segment area. So with that, I mean, we have over this first 6 months extended our analytical options a lot, as I said, with the activity feed, with segmentations, and with the page views. And we would listen to your feedback once you now have all these features bundled into one single version, that you can give us a call, and we can definitely, let's say, listen to your potential real-world feedback from your usage of Newired to track the target application analytics. If you go to the blog post, that has been the biggest, let's say, improvement in this version 23.2, but there are also some other improvements that we have been doing for, let's say, new and existing customers. So many of you are actually, let's say, asking to have a very specific and corporate identity-based themes or styles. What I'm speaking about. So whenever you go to the real world application, that's this CRM system, whenever I click help, there are different pop-ups that appears on the screen. This visual interface is what is the digital adoption layer that can, let's say, be presented over any application. And of course, there are two goals. First, the visual style of the application shall match the target application. So for example, if the target application is very light, everything in is very light colors, you don't want the colors to blend completely with the target application. At the same time, for some apps, you also want to, let's say, benefit from the corporate identity colors and make sure that, let's say, that the color coding of the application is aligned with your target application. This is mostly for those of you who are the independent software vendors and bundle the Newired with the target software. We still remind each and everyone, it's definitely a best practice to ensure that the style of the callouts, so the look and feel, should stand out from the underlying content. We'll be soon launching a webinar that speaks about the best practices, how to structure and also visualize the content, and we will be speaking more about what are the typical best practices. But from what I want you to remember, it's always not the greatest idea to really fully, let's say, apply the same color coding for the overlay as for the underlying application, because there is a risk that the information will let's say, be hidden for the target end user. So whenever I click next, this pop-up should stand out and highlight to the user where to click. But what we have also listened to, or what we have heard from you, is that, let's say, it would be great if we provide some more options to select a default themes. So anytime I go to the site settings in my editor or in the portal, you see that I can adjust some of the criteria, but I can actually, let's say, select a different themes. And we have just launched a great number, I think 6 more themes that you can pick from. So without any configuration, without any, let's say, adjustments, you can just leverage a default styles out of the box. So I'm sure that with having around 20 different styles out of the box available, you will pick the one that fits your environment, and you can really let's say benefit from those out of the box themes and controls we are shipping with the product now. So those of you who are new to Newired, of course, I mean, we have a so-called theme development kit that will allow you to define your own completely custom themes. But we really recommend that at the beginning, without a need to configure something, you can just select some of the themes that are available out of the box when you install the new version of Newired. The cloud-hosted customers, they get all the themes automatically. We launch them. For the customers on premise, we provide a package that you can load these new themes into your on-premise deployment. Go back to the blog post. So then, new tool for import and export of the content. Many of you are asking how you can really, let's say, test the content of the new Newired version without risking an update of the existing Newired system. Let me just highlight that first, anytime there is a new version of Newired, we have our versioning component. So when you update the Newired system to the latest version, the production content, so everything which is available to your end users. So when I install the new version of Newired and I have the production system, my CRM system, connected already with Newired, the content, including all the binaries and everything, is never modified. So what it means, when I update Newired to the new version, the published content, including all the binaries, the JavaScript, etc., are 100% frozen, which means that there is absolutely no risk to update Newired to the new version. In the past, we have seen some issues, so that's the reason why over the last 12 months we implemented this complete isolation, which really guarantees that when there is a new version, the target application guidance is never ever changed. Which also means that if there would be any problem with the runtime, and you know it's a software industry, so there could be the minor issues, or there can be some enhancements as well. These issues fixes or the enhancements are not visible anyway automatically once you update to the new version. So what it means, when I install the new Newired version, I need to publish the content to benefit from these new features and enhancements in the runtime environment. So it has the pro and cons. The benefit is that there is a complete isolation and there is no risk to update Newired to the new version. At the same time, this isolation brings a need that you really need to submit a new version to benefit actually from the new runtime libraries, etc. There are still some customers who would like to have a staging environment for the new version, just because they are in the regulated industries and they have to perform the tool validation, etc. From this perspective, we enable you to really have the staging server either on your premises or set up a short-term staging server in the cloud environment. But from this perspective, I mean, of course, you can, let's say, have the content fully recreated from the backup, or you want to import and export content between different servers. It was always possible to do it in the past, but with the new version of Newired, it is significantly more easy. What I'm saying, so again, in the management interface in the Newired portal, you see here there's a content tab. In the past, there were a couple of tabs called journeys and tips. We have now packaged everything together into one single page called content. I can actually export the full site. Okay, so I can export the complete package and import it into new Newired server. So the same way as I can export, I can import the package because I've just downloaded the full site. So in the past, I was able to duplicate it only on the one server. Currently, you can really export and import it. This can also be used for some backup systems if you really want to, let's say, have a backup of one particular project only. And of course, you can also copy it to some other target site on one server as well. The good thing is that you don't need to only export the full site, but you can also, let's say, just select which of the journeys you want to miss, maybe not all the playbooks, not tips at all, but yes, you want to export the segments. So you have the full control about what will be exported and what will be imported into the new package. So the import export capabilities were completely redesigned. With the ability to export and import the entire site or select data in everything together. In the past, you had to select tips independently on the journeys. There was no way how you can import it, playbooks, etc. So it's a great enhancements for the existing customers with multiple Newired servers that needs to really, let's say, move data from one system to the other. Automatic update improvements. So again, some of you, I checked the registrants for this webinar up front, are still on the older version of Newired. And if you remember, anytime there was a new Newired version, you had to reinstall the so-called Newired editor. So the Newired editor is the environment that is being used by the content authors to create the content. And it's a desktop application. It's based on the same technology as Visual Studio Code, as Microsoft Teams, as Spotify. It's called Electron. So it contains the browser. So what we have done recently is that we enabled you to keep one version of editor only, but whenever the editor connects to a particular server, so whenever I connect to a particular server, the system downloads all the underlying runtime capabilities. So what it means is that you don't need to reinstall the server, or not reinstall the client-side software, so you don't need to reinstall the editor every time there is a new version of Newired. In case there would be a situation, there will be some, let's say, security issue with the overall framework that takes care about this automated installations, etc. We would inform you, and it might happen that it would need to reinstall the actual editor. But we are 100% sure that for most of our updates, this will not be necessary, and you would be able to connect to a different versions of Newired with one single Newired editor version. This has been a great improvement for all of you who are, let's say, testing different Newired versions, or also for us when we are evaluating or helping you via support to connect to your environment. It also helps our duties to support you with working on the fixes or support tickets, etc. So let me just let's see, highlight again what were the key improvements in this version 23.2. I started with the page views. If you would check the previous releases, you would see that we have invested a lot over the last 6 to 12 months into the analytics. We, let's say, plan to, let's say, continue investing into analytics, but most of the new features will be again related to the core of our business, to the journeys, to the tips, and we think that our analytical module is strong enough in the current situation. If you miss anything major, please let us know. But again, the new page views capabilities are there to help you not just understand what's going on with your Newired content, but also with the target application. The second major improvements were related to the themes, so ability to select the theme that matches your visual style. There are just more styles based on the different modern practices in the let's say user styling and user design. We help all of you to import and export content more easily across the different sites, and the automated update has been even improved within our core infrastructure. I planned this general introduction to be around 30 minutes. I'll now open the presentation for the Q&A session. It's a roundtable webinar, so I really welcome any questions, not solely to the things which are new in the release 23.2. If you have a question related to any previous functionality, please let us know. So I go to the questions, and let me just wait for a few of them. Our application is single URL based. How are the page views implemented? This is a very good question. You know, different apps have a different ways how they handle the so-called URLs. For this demonstration, I was using really more traditional application, which means that anything what happens, it really changes the URL. So even if you would use the traditional analytical tools such as Google Analytics, it will track this nicely. What we did with our platform is that we also collect or manage the data which are let's say available for the single page applications, like here. So the typical example, maybe that's the customer that was asking this question, is the so-called Siemens solution for ALM called Polarion. So if I would open this URL, because we have these access to the system, actually this is an application where even though what I'm clicking in the application, all what is changing is the URL after this hash symbol, which technically really means that this doesn't reload the page. And this is causing troubles, as the client is probably aware, with many analytical software modules. We are aware that many of our customers are using applications that are, let's say, leveraging this single URL page load concept. And we have implemented in our analytics the support for such concepts. So if you go into the page views, we see that we collect the page views also based on these hash symbols, which makes it possible to track the applications that are based on the single URL, so-called. So yes, we do support the single URL based applications with the hash symbols in the URL. How do you identify the logged in user? So this question is probably related to the personal analytics that I was speaking about. That's something which is optional, which you can enable or disable. And again, this is something which can be done in several options. So one option is that whenever first option is that first it's optional, so you can disable the personal analytics. The second option is that without any integration, the user will be asked to give his or her name the first time he or she is using Newired. So if I actually open the Newired server for the very first time, let's imagine that I'm using the incognito mode, and then I log in into the browser. When I run a first journey, it tells me, welcome, in order to continue, please provide your identity, Jerzy Wolek, and then I continue with the journey. That's a very dummy approach. The better approach would be that we actually derive the user from the underlying application. So what it means is that if you close this personal view, and if you go to the Newired portal, let me go to the different site. So just so we can really answer some of your questions well. If you go to actually settings, here advanced settings, and here, if you put it here under the, if you remember, we had here the let's say the journeys on one of these Polar implementations, and the personal analytics have been turned on. But what we can do, we can enable the so-called automated, or we can plug in the script that is specific to some target application, in this case Polarion, which will derive the end user information automatically from the target platform. So what we are seeing now, if I would refresh, or no, if I would, let's say, this version, if I would publish this content, save it, publish. I hope that I've made it visible. Yes. So now if I did everything right, I would be able to actually see the name automatically derived from the target platform. You see that was the computer that I was using today. Here is Carlo Xavier, and that's actually the name that is automatically derived also here for Polarion. So from now on, all the analytics will be automatically collected on user ID. So you can also integrate it from the single sign-on and other concepts. Long story short, I mean, to integrate Newired identity with the target application, there needs to be a special configuration because we support any web application. But what you can do, you can easily integrate it in a way that the user context is automatically derived from the target application. I hope I answered your question. If not, please ask again. Okay, what else we have here? This question has been already answered. Is the Newired API backward compatible? Yes. So I was speaking about the fact that you shouldn't be worried about, let's say, about updating to the new Newired version, because let's say everything is, let's say, versioned. So which also means that, I mean, the content of the API or the version of the API that you use to integrate your application doesn't match the Newired version, but it needs to match the version that you have published for your end users. This could be a little bit complex, but because this person has asked this question, let me really mention that yes, we keep the APIs compatible forward and backward. So of course, if you have a script that you have developed over the version 2, it will work also on the version 3 of the content or of the version of Newired. But of course, if you, let's see, if you develop something based on the new Newired APIs and you would run it over the old published versions, this may not work because everything regarding to the APIs, binaries, and content is being frozen anytime you publish a specific version of the content. Go back to the questions. Today they are very complex questions. So let me just check if there is anything more easy to highlight here. No. So I would be asking once again if there are any questions from the team. If not, I'm sure that you may have some of the questions popping up later. The webinar is recorded. We will share the recording with you after this tomorrow or on Monday. And thank you for being with us today. I'm sure that, let's say, if you are evaluating Newired, you will also benefit from all these new enhancements we have just launched. If you are existing users, please don't forget to update your system if you are on premise. If you were hosted, you have been already contacted by our team that we provided the hands-on, let's say, assistance, and you were able to pick a slot when the system has been updated to the latest version. Thank you for your time today. Let's stay in touch and have a great day. Bye, everyone.